Hello and welcome to Domsolar. I'm Stefan Arroway. I work in the design office, and today I'm going to introduce you to the NPA system. The NPA system is certified with an ETN by SODES Prevention. It's a system with a base plate, so it's fixed at the crest of the back trapezoidal wave, and you can also install it on the opposite side as long as it's less than 3 kilometers from the sea. With purlin spans up to 2 meters, and they are compatible with several types of trays on steel trays of 0.75 or 0.63 millimeters. The NPA system adapts to several profiles of trapezoidal trays for wave heights between 39 and 45 millimeters. I'm going to show you the parts, and you'll immediately see the difference from the system you already know, the NPA 345. Here's the system you're familiar with, the NPA 345. There's already a video online about it. This one only fits on the 345 tray. You should avoid fixing it to the purlin. Unlike the system I'm presenting to you today, the NPA, which actually goes directly over the purlins, and it adapts to several types of trays. Here I've put two examples of trays for you, a 40 and a 45 wave height. And you can immediately see that the system can fit both the 45 and the 40. Unlike the 345 you're already familiar with, you have too much play at the crest of the wave. That one is not allowed on the 40, only on the 45. The system comes pre-assembled with its fasteners. Here is the external fastener, which you find at the bottom and at the top of the system. The universal fastener is equipped with a specialized clip designed to effectively ground the modules. This fastener is strategically placed in the central position to securely hold and stabilize the modules. Depending on the project, you will have 3 screws to hold the support in place at a minimum. To the tray, either 8mm hexahead screws from the brand Fino or 12mm hexahead stitching screws from the brand Itanco. Before installing the system, a preliminary study will have been done, and we need as much information as possible about your roof, meaning the exact location, the framing plan, the spacing between purlins, whether there are adjoining buildings or not. All of this is actually to prepare the calculation report. So don't forget the module's technical data sheet, your layout plan, and the technical data sheet for the steel tray. The NPA system is not installed all the way up to the ridge. From the ridge, if you have a finishing sheet, you need to leave 35 centimeters. Domsolar provides you with the layout plans from your study, with the cumulative dimensions that you can see at the bottom center of the screen. It's placed actually the bottom of your mounting plates. We will also talk about grounding. Be sure to carefully check the delivered materials before starting your installation on the roof. Now that everything is ready and you have checked the materials, you can start installing the system on the roof. You should always check your roof, the slope, and the dimensions. From edge to edge of your roof according to the provided plan. And in any case, we provide you with the rail-to-rail measurement, which is really the size of your generator, so you can fit it onto your roof. Be aware that the mounting plates at the top and bottom extend about 5 centimeters, and that there is a 9mm gap between modules along the slope, as well as between the columns. Of course, if you want a bit more space between the columns, you need to have informed us beforehand, before conducting the study. Now we're going to discuss how to mark the reference points for the modules and mounting plates on the wave crests. Here, I'm going to show you something that's becoming less common, which is making 2 gauges to the dimensions of the module with the gap you set between each column. And on your layout plans, we indicate a 130mm restricted area, 330mm allowed. So actually your mounting plate can be placed between 13 and 46 centimeters from the edge of the module. And we prefer to make 2 gauges. That way you can work in pairs and move the gauges forward together, marking your wave reference points according to the 33 centimeters you've set, the zones you've marked on your gauges. If you ever find yourself with a 33 centimeter zone that could fall between 2 waves, for example, your zone here, which is marked on the 33 centimeter gauge, could very well end up here. But what you actually need to carefully look at and observe is the other wave, the other distinct zone on your gauge. Here, it will generally and typically only be present on one particular wave. You can quite easily and precisely mark your designated zone here, which will subsequently receive the essential mounting plate. You will indeed need at least 1 full meter of space to properly install the second crucial mounting plate. You could very well have 1.33 meters, but never less than 1 meter. It's a good idea to have 2 different colors because you'll be marking the reference points for the modules between each module and the waves that will receive the mounting plates. Another method that I see more and more often when I go on site is to unroll a measuring tape. So depending on the size of the roof, you might have 60 meters. Here I have an example of 30 meters, but you unroll it with the 0 point actually being the edge of your module. And you prepare, this is not something that Dom Solar provides. You prepare an Excel file with the cumulative measurements. By default, we use 9 millimeters, but for your project, if you chose 20 millimeters, you need to be very careful with your 20 millimeter spacing. So here I have a small example. I started at the bottom left. My module is 1762 millimeters, and I have 9 millimeters between the columns of modules. In my Excel file, it adds my module length plus 9 millimeters. It's a small exercise to create in your software. You can also request the DWG file from Dom Solar and also mark your cumulative codes on the plan, like I did a bit at the bottom left. That shows me the axes between each module. To make the green markers here, I reproduced on the photo your axis markers between the modules. Next, you move on to marking the corrugations of the tray that will receive the mounting plates. We place the gauge here for you, but very quickly you'll get a sense of your 1 meter. If you have a 333 tray, that's 3 corrugations. If you have a 250 tray, that's 4 corrugations. You always try to maintain this 1 meter spacing and stay between your module markers around 13 and 45 centimeters from the edge of the module. Once you've made your marks, you'll need to align all your mounting plates. And when it comes to marking, everyone has their own method. Either you have a gutter and you can use it as a reference, though it's a good idea to check if it's straight, or you use the 3, 4, 5 method. You have a 0 mark, that's the edge of your module. Be careful. We're not talking about the mounting plate. We're starting from the edge of the module. It might be that your first module isn't on the crest of a wave, but that's not a big problem. You can just as easily start on a wave crest. You'll just need to apply your 3, 4, 5 method a little further along. You measure out your distance of 3 meters. In our case, we don't have a choice. With these systems, we follow the crest of the tray's wave. So your tray needs to be very well positioned, perfectly straight. If that's not the case, you'll have to cheat at some point or another. You make your mark at 3 meters. You can also use multiples. You can use 6 meters. You draw your arc from 0.0 and 4 meters. You can use a multiple. If you use 6 meters, you can use 8. And you draw your diagonal between the 3 and 4 meter marks, and you also draw your arc. And of course, if you use the multiple 6 and 8, your diagonal should be 10 meters. So once you have drawn your 2 arcs, you can very well mark your first line with a chalk line. Or you can also use a string line. You have your reference points for the base plates. Now you can place the first and last ones or the one in the middle. If you use a string line, you're working with distances of 15 meters. You're not going to use a string line over 60 meters. It would end up all crooked. Next, once you've made all your reference marks, you set and align everything. Your first row of base plates is perfectly aligned. For the second row, you have your cumulative measurements. So here at the bottom right, it's at 1144. And here as well, same thing, a chalk line or a string line. And you typically start on the second row. Some people will often make a precise gauge between the two base plates, carefully measuring the distance. Everyone has their own preference. And you install your base plates as you go along. To fasten your base plates, you use 3 screws. 1 screw on one side and 2 screws on the other side. Generally, you'll start by putting in just 1 screw, the one in the middle. I recommend putting in the first screw, the one in the middle. Another person can then move on to the other 2 screws. It's better to always work in the same direction rather than going one way and then coming back right away in the other direction. So you finished your second row, you move on to the third row, and so on, all the way to the top of the generator. It's a minimum of 3 screws. If you need more, it will be specified on the mounting plan. Tightening torque, 3 newtons. We need hex head screws, specifically size 12, or alternatively, hex head screws of size 8. Next, you will then move on to carefully securing the various modules into their proper positions. Always start with the first row at the bottom of the module. This is also the row you will ground using the CTM provided. The module is grounded under the frame using the CTM. The CTM has 2 pointed screws. 1 screw is for securing it under the frame of the module, and 1 screw is for passing the green-yellow wire through. You will tighten this screw so that it goes directly into the insulation and presses against the copper. You must absolutely not screw it in all the way until it stops against the aluminum of the CTM, because you would create contact between the copper and the aluminum, and that's not a good combination. Tightening torque for the 2 pointed screws is between 2.5 and 3 newtons. Use a 6mm hex key. You will ground the first and last row of modules with the CTM, the modules. They are tightened either with the universal clamp or with the external clamp. You will always start with the very first row at the absolute bottom, so this particular installation will be with the external clamp, and the entire first row of photovoltaic modules will be securely grounded. You will then carefully come up against the external clamp, ensuring a precise and stable connection. Then once you are properly secured on the outside, set your module down. By default, the intermodule clamp is more off-center when it is delivered. This allows you to slide your clamp in and, most importantly, to position the module correctly first. It doesn't get in the way when installing the module. When you install the mounting plates facing upwards, don't forget tightening torque of 10 Newton meters, 5mm Allen key, whether it's the intermodule clamp or the external clamp. Remember to align the plates with the string or cordex. The plates are attached with at least 3 screws. If more are needed, we will let you know. Tightening torque is 3 Newton meters, and we supply either 8mm hex heads or 12mm. Tightening torque for the modules is 10 Newton meters. If your project is less than 3 kilometers from the sea, all these screws will be at least a 4 grade. And the advantage of this system is that you can access the pan screws. Feel free to visit our website and create your customer account. You can easily download all the necessary manuals and official certifications related to your specific system, such as the Essential ETN for the NPA, for example. You also have the option on our website to check in advance whether your module is certified with our different systems. If you have any questions after watching this, please don't hesitate to send them to me. At the email address shown here, please make sure to include the file number starting with F or E. And all that's left is for me to wish you a great start. Thank you. Have a nice day. Goodbye.